Everything you've been told about confidence is a lie. You know that advice? Just be yourself. Believe in who you are. Authenticity is everything. It sounds beautiful, inspiring even, until the moment you actually need it. Let me tell you about Sarah. She's a brilliant attorney. In her office, reviewing cases, strategizing with colleagues, she's sharp, articulate, commanding. But put her in a courtroom with a hostile witness and 12 jurors staring at her, her mind goes blank. Her voice shakes. That brilliant attorney, she vanishes. And here's the thing that destroys her. Everyone keeps telling her to just be confident and believe in herself. But she already believes in herself. That's not the problem. The problem is that being herself is exactly what's failing her. Because under pressure, yourself isn't this fixed, confident thing. Your authentic self includes your fears, your insecurities, your traumatic memory of fumbling a presentation in law school. When the stakes are highest, your brain doesn't access your best self. It accesses your scared self, your doubtful self, your what if I fail self. This is what I call the confidence paradox. The moments when you need confidence most are precisely the moments when trying to find it within yourself becomes impossible. It's like trying to swim while someone's holding your head underwater and shouting, "Just relax and be natural." Think about it. Athletes choke, performers freeze, leaders crack. And it's not because they don't believe in themselves. It's because under extreme pressure, the self they're trying to believe in gets hijacked by fear. Your identity becomes a trap. So what's the solution? Here's where it gets fascinating. You don't dig deeper into yourself. You step outside of yourself. You become someone else. Someone who doesn't carry your baggage, your history, your fear. Someone designed specifically for this moment. This is the alter ego effect. And it's not some mystical concept. It's a tool that Kobe Bryant used, that Beyonce used, that countless athletes, executives, and performers have used to access their peak performance when it matters most. Sarah? She created the prosecutor. Not Sarah trying to be confident. A completely different identity. When she puts on her courtroom watch, she's not Sarah anymore. She's the prosecutor. Someone who never doubts, never hesitates, never carries Sarah's fear of judgment. And here's what happened. She won her next 3 cases. Not because she found more confidence in herself, but because she stopped trying to be herself. When the game is on the line, you don't need a better you. You need a different you. Someone built for the moment, unencumbered by your past, designed purely for performance. The rest of this video will show you exactly how to build that alter ego, how to activate it, and how it will unlock the performance you've been searching for. Because the secret to confidence isn't finding yourself, it's leaving yourself behind. Imagine Sarah, a brilliant software engineer who freezes every time she has to present her ideas in meetings. Her heart races, her mind goes blank. She knows her code is flawless, but the moment all eyes turn to her, she crumbles. One day before a critical presentation, she does something unusual. She puts on a specific blazer, one she never wears otherwise, and she thinks of herself as the architect. Not Sarah, the anxious engineer, but the architect, calm, authoritative, visionary. She walks into that meeting room, and something shifts. Her voice is steady. Her hands don't shake. She commands the room. What just happened? Did Sarah suddenly overcome years of anxiety in one moment? Not exactly. She activated what psychologists call cognitive distancing, and it's the first pillar of alter ego architecture. Cognitive distancing is like stepping outside yourself to observe your situation from a third-person perspective. When Sarah became the architect, she created psychological space between her anxious self and her professional persona. Research from Columbia University shows that this simple shift, thinking about yourself in the third person, can reduce anxiety by up to 40% and improve performance under pressure. Think of it like this. Imagine you're playing a video game. When you control a character on screen, you don't feel their fear. You strategize. You make bold moves. You're emotionally detached enough to think clearly. That's cognitive distancing in action. But there's a second mechanism at work here, something called identity flexibility. Most of us walk through life believing we have one fixed personality. I'm just shy, we say, or I'm not good with numbers. these become iron cages. But neuroscience reveals something liberating. Your brain doesn't actually have a single unchanging identity center. Your sense of self is more like a wardrobe than a uniform. You already shift identities constantly. You're different with your boss than with your best friend, different at a funeral than at a party. An alter ego simply makes this natural process intentional and powerful. When you consciously adopt an alter ego, you're not being fake. You're accessing real parts of yourself that get buried under limiting beliefs and past trauma. You're giving yourself permission to show up differently. Consider Kobe Bryant's Black Mamba persona, not just a nickname, but a complete psychological separation. When he became the Black Mamba, he could be ruthless, focused, and immune to criticism in ways that young Kobe from Philadelphia might have struggled with. He wasn't pretending, he was activating dormant capabilities. The science backs this up. A Stanford study on enclosed cognition found that people who wore a doctor's coat performed better on attention-demanding tasks, but only if they believed it was a doctor's coat. The physical trigger combined with the mental association created measurable cognitive changes. This is the architecture of transformation. A physical trigger, like Sarah's blazer or a superhero's cape, anchors a psychological shift. That shift creates distance from your limiting beliefs. And that distance gives you access to capabilities that were always there, just locked away. You're not becoming someone else. You're becoming more fully yourself. The version that doesn't carry the weight of every past failure, every criticism, every moment of self-doubt. The alter ego works because it exploits a beautiful loophole in human psychology. We're far better at being brave for others than for ourselves. When you embody your alter ego, you're not trying to protect fragile, anxious you. You're showing up as your most powerful self. And that makes all the difference. Sarah had been training for the marathon for 6 months. Every morning at 5 a.m., she'd lace up her shoes, step outside, and then she'd hear it. A voice. Not out loud, but crystal clear in her mind. You're too slow. Everyone will see you fail. Remember what happened last time? And just like that, her motivation would crumble. She'd turn around, go back inside, and promise herself she'd start tomorrow. Sarah wasn't fighting a lack of discipline. She was fighting an invisible enemy she didn't even know had a name. And until she learned to see it, to call it out, it would keep winning. This is Chapter 3, Naming Your Enemy. Here's the truth that most performance advice completely misses. You're not just competing against external obstacles. There's a war happening inside your mind, and the enemy has been operating in the shadows, unnamed and unchallenged. Todd Herman calls these forces your common enemy. The internal critics, the voices of past trauma, the doubt that masquerades as wisdom. But here's what's fascinating. These enemies only have power when they're invisible. The moment you name them, externalize them, pull them out of the shadows, something shifts. Think of it like this. Imagine you're walking alone at night and you hear footsteps behind you. Your heart races. Your imagination goes wild. That sound could be anything. A threat, a monster, your doom. But then you turn around and see it's just a neighbor walking their small dog. The fear doesn't just decrease, it transforms completely. That's the power of seeing your enemy clearly. When Sarah finally sat down and wrote out exactly what that voice said to her, when she named it the critic and recognized it as her father's disappointed tone from childhood, everything changed. It was no longer her truth. It was an echo, a ghost, something separate from who she actually was. The process is simple but profound. First, you listen. What does your enemy say? You're not good enough? People will laugh at you? You always mess this up? Write down the exact words. They have less power when they're on paper instead of swirling in your head. Second, you locate the origin. Where did this voice come from? An overbearing parent? A past failure? A cruel teacher? A traumatic moment? Understanding the source helps you realize it's not universal truth. It's old data running on outdated programming. Third, and this is crucial, you give it a name. Not your name. Not me or my anxiety. A separate name. The saboteur, the imposter, the perfectionist. When you externalize it, you create distance. You stop being the problem and start seeing the problem. Sarah named her enemy the judge, and when she'd hear that voice on marathon morning, she'd say out loud, "Oh, that's just the judge again. Thanks for sharing, but I'm not listening today." She'd put on her shoes and run anyway. 6 months later, Sarah crossed that marathon finish line, not because the judge disappeared, it still showed up, but because it was no longer running her life. She'd named it, she'd seen it clearly, and she'd chosen her alter ego instead. Your hidden forces can't sabotage what they can no longer hide behind. Name your enemy, drag it into the light, because the moment you do, you reclaim the power it's been stealing from you all along.
Meet Sarah. Every morning, she'd stare at her reflection before important client presentations, whispering the same desperate mantra, "You can do this, just be confident." But the moment she stepped into that boardroom, her voice would shrink, her hands would tremble, and her brilliant ideas would die in her throat. One day, she tried something different. Instead of telling herself to be confident, she asked a radical question: who would I need to become? This is the heart of Chapter 4, the blueprint for crafting your heroic self. Because here's the truth most people miss. You don't find confidence, you architect it. You don't discover your powerful self, you design it, trait by trait, value by value, behavior by behavior. Sarah didn't just need a pep talk, she needed a complete identity for the battlefield of that boardroom. So she began the blueprint process. Step 1, define your performance field with surgical precision. Sarah realized her struggle wasn't all of life. It was specifically high-stakes client presentations. Your alter ego isn't a costume you wear everywhere. It's a specialized tool for a specific arena. Are you building this identity for negotiations, creative work, difficult conversations, leadership moments? Name the exact battlefield. Step 2, identify the traits of your heroic self. Sarah asked herself, who would dominate in this room? She thought of a trial lawyer she'd once watched, calm, authoritative, unshakable. She listed the traits: commanding presence, crystal clear communication, fearless directness, strategic patience. Notice she didn't list what she lacked. She listed what her alter ego possessed. Step 3, root it in core values. This is where most people stumble. They create a facade that feels hollow because it's not anchored in truth. Sarah asked, what do I actually stand for? Her answer, authentic value delivery and client transformation. Her alter ego wasn't about being fake. It was about being the version of herself that fully honored those values without apology. Step 4, define the specific behaviors. This is where fantasy becomes reality. Sarah got granular. Her alter ego walks into the room 3 minutes early, makes eye contact for a full 2 seconds with each person, speaks in complete sentences without uptalk, pauses deliberately after making key points, uses hand gestures at chest level. These weren't vague intentions. They were choreographed actions. Here's the moment everything changed for Sarah. She gave this identity a name, the Advocate. Not a superhero name, but a simple title that embodied everything she'd architected. And the next time she had a presentation, she didn't try to be confident. She didn't give herself a pep talk. She simply activated the Advocate. She walked in 3 minutes early, made eye contact, spoke with authority, and for the first time in years, her brilliant ideas didn't die in her throat. They commanded the room. Because she wasn't trying to be someone else. She was stepping into a version of herself she had deliberately, carefully, powerfully designed. Your heroic self isn't waiting to be discovered in some distant future when you finally feel ready. It's waiting to be crafted right now, with intention and precision. Define your field, list your traits, anchor your values, choreograph your behaviors. The question isn't whether you can transform. The question is, who will you architect yourself to become?
Imagine you're standing backstage, your heart is pounding. In 30 seconds, you have to walk onto that stage, into that boardroom, into that difficult conversation. And right now, you feel small, vulnerable, ordinary. Now imagine you reach into your pocket and pull out a single object. Maybe it's a ring, maybe it's a pair of glasses. And the moment you put it on, something shifts. Your shoulders pull back, your breath deepens. You're no longer you. You're the version of you that can handle anything. This is Chapter 5, Activation. And And this is where your alter ego goes from a concept in your mind to a force that you can summon at will. Todd Herman calls these physical triggers totems. Think of Clark Kent's glasses, Wonder Woman's bracelets. These aren't just costume pieces, they're activation switches, and you need one too. Here's why this matters. Your brain is wired to respond to symbols and rituals. When a surgeon puts on their scrubs, they're not just getting dressed, they're stepping into the identity of someone whose hands save lives. When a judge puts on their robe, they're embodying justice itself. Let me tell you about Sarah, a client who struggled with public speaking. Every time she had to present, her voice would shake, her mind would go blank. We created an alter ego for her, the professor, calm, authoritative, encyclopedic. But the real breakthrough came when we found her totem, a simple red pen. Before every presentation, Sarah would click that red pen 3 times. That sound became her activation ritual. Click, click, click. And with each click, Sarah faded. The professor emerged. Within weeks, she was leading company-wide presentations with confidence that seemed to come from nowhere. But it didn't come from nowhere. It came from a deliberate trigger that her brain learned to associate with power. Your totem can be anything: a watch, a bracelet, a specific pair of shoes, a piece of clothing. The object itself doesn't matter. What matters is the meaning you give it. What matters is the ritual you build around it. Here's your activation sequence. First, choose your totem, something you can physically put on or hold. Second, create your ritual. Maybe it's 3 deep breaths while holding it. Maybe it's a specific phrase you say. Maybe it's a posture you take. Third, practice the transition. Put on the totem. Execute the ritual. Feel yourself shift from your ordinary self into your alter ego. The beauty of this system is its instant accessibility. You don't need to psych yourself up for 20 minutes. You don't need perfect conditions. You just need your totem and your ritual. 3 seconds. That's all it takes to become the person who can handle what's in front of you. Think about the moments in your life when you need to be at your best. The moments when fear creeps in, when doubt whispers. Those are the moments your alter ego was designed for. So here's your assignment. Choose your totem this week. Something tangible, something you can wear or carry. Then design your activation ritual. Make it simple, make it repeatable, and start practicing the shift. Because the person you need to become isn't somewhere out there. They're right here, waiting to be activated. Your transformation isn't magic, it's method, and now you have the switch.